Hello Algebra, this video is for you about the point-slope formula of a line. So here it is, the point-slope formula of a line. Now the point that we are talking about is given by these coordinates, y1 and x1. When you see in math, you have this little 1 down here on the variable. That's called a subscript because it's a little number below your variable. And in this case, what it means is that x1 and y1 are not really variables, but they're standing in for specific constant values. So x1 comma y1 is a known point. And then if you watch my last video on slope, you'll know that m is always the letter that we use for slope in math. So m stands in for slope. So I think the best thing to do for this is to just give you an example right away, and then I'll talk to you about a little bit more about this. So I want you to write the equation of a line with a slope m is -3 passing through 4, 8. So the point we have here is 4, 8, and the slope we have is -3. And we're using this formula, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And the key here is just to know what gets plugged in where. Our slope is -3, so -3 is what we substitute in for m. 4 is our x coordinate, so we substitute that in for our x1. Eight is our y coordinate. So you guessed it, for the y1, we're going to substitute in the 8. And that would actually be your final answer for this point. This is a line in point slope form with a slope of -3 going through our point 4, 8. So let's go ahead and graph that. We can use our point and our slope to graph that exact line. Let's do it. Get my graph set up here. This is the only thing I like better about doing these videos for you guys, is that I can have perfectly straight lines, because you know that I could not do this on the board. So I'll just try to enjoy that while I can. All right. So we had a point 4, 8. So let's find that point. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oop, I should have made my graph a little bit taller. Let's go ahead and extend it. I jinxed myself by saying I like making it perfectly straight. So this is our point, 4, 8. And our slope is -3. So our slope is -3. And remember, slope, we're looking at the change in y over the change in x. So I can look at this as -3 divided by +1. And so what this is telling me is that, let's use some colors here. This blue, this -3, is telling me that my changing in the y direction, I should go down 1, 2, 3. And this green, this +1 here, is telling me that I should go to the right 1. And that will be the next point on my line. So that is enough to graph this line. Let's graph it. in yellow. Oops, that's terrible. Even with the ruler in the tablet, I still struggle. Oh well, I have other strengths. And so that's our little line. So here's something I think is interesting. Now we have a second point on this line. We have, I need another color. Let's use this light blue. So we have this other point here. Where is that point? So that point is in the x direction. I think it looks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the y direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. So this is the point 5, 5. So another equation for this line in point slope form, let's do it. If we said a line through 5, 5 with a slope of m is equal to -3. So we would use our equation y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Oops. And this time our slope of -3 is what we would put in for m. And 5 would be our x. And 5 would be our y. And so we would have y minus 5 equals -3 times x minus 5. And that would be our equation. So what's interesting about this is now we have two equations for the same exact line, right? These are two equations and they look different. We have y minus 8 is equal to -3 times x minus 4. And we have y minus 5 is equal to -3 times x minus 5. They look different, but they're for the same line. And it turns out if we simplify these in a particular way, they're going to become the exact same answer. So here's equation 1. And that was y, let's take a look at it again, I don't want to get it wrong. Y minus 8 and x minus 4. So that gave us y minus 8 equals -3 times x minus 4. And we also have equation 2. Y minus 5 equals -3 times x minus 5. It turns out that if I solve these equations for y, I'm going to get the same exact answer. So I'm going to run through and do that for you in red. If you'd like to pause the video here and try it yourself, that would be a good idea. Okay, so I'm going to solve these equations for y. That means I want to get y by itself on one side and everything on the other side of the equal sign. So first, I'm going to say y minus 8 equals, and I'm going to distribute this -3. That's -3x plus 12. Then I'm going to add 8 to each side. And I have y equals -3x plus 20. I'm going to do the same thing for equation 2. Now I am going to distribute my -3. So I have y minus 5 equals -3x plus 15. Then I add 5 to each side, and I get y equals -3x plus 20. And just like I promised, these are the same. So, which makes sense if you think about it. It's the same line, so we should have a way to write the equation that's going to show that it's the same. So the takeaway here, the important thing I want you to know is that there are many different point slope equations for the same line. There is only one slope intercept equation for a given line. Yeah, and that's what we ended up with, by the way. We had y is equal to negative 3x plus 20. This is called the slope intercepts